Hello everybody, in this video we are going to start solving the Kaplan exam kit of ACCA F2 Management Accounting. In this video we will be covering the chapter number 1 of your book, which is Accounting for Management, chapter number 10, Sources of Data and Presenting Information, which is your chapter number, let me check, chapter number 17 in the new book, and cost classification, which is the chapter number 2. So these are the 4 chapters which we will be quickly revising and solving the questions from the Kaplan exam kit. So before watching this video, make sure to check the description box below and click on the study text playlist, wherein you can watch the detailed in-depth chapter explanation videos. After watching them, you can watch this video wherein I'm going to solve the exam kit. Okay, so the first chapter is our Accounting for Management. Before starting this, let's just quickly revise the core concepts of the Accounting for Management chapter. Make sure to have a paper, pencil and a calculator with you. Okay, so in the first chapter, we basically saw the overview of what is management and we saw what is data, right? We saw what is data and what is information, and data was the facts and information is when you process the data. Right. We also saw what is a good information and what is a bad information, and when you process data, then it becomes information, right? So that is the difference between data and information. Data is basically the raw format of information, first thing. And then we saw the good we saw what are the attributes of good information, and we saw that there was one abbreviation which was accurate. Give me a second. So that was accurate. So what is accurate? Accurate was basically the attributes of good information. A stands for accurate, C stands for complete, C stands for cost effective, U for understandable, and then we had relevant, authoritative, timely and easy to use. So these are the attributes of good information. Since I'm just revising the chapter, I'm not making proper notes. You can feel free to make notes if you want to. Okay. And then we saw what are mission statements. So mission statements of a company or a department, it basically, it has 4 elements, which was purpose, strategies, policies and culture and values. And then we saw what is planning, right? And we saw what are the objectives of, what were the attributes of planning procedure. So that was SMART, wherein S is for specific, M for measurable, A is for achievable or attainable, how realistic it is to achieve, and then we have relevant and timely. So these were the objectives of the planning procedure. So planning was basically setting objectives, identifying ways in which the objectives can be met, and then making a decision as to how, and then achieving it. Now decision making is basically implementing a decision. Now what was our control procedure? Control procedure basically was to gather information of, just a second, was formulating strategies, and it was also to check on how comparing the actual results to what we had thought of, right? So comparing the actual results with the expected results and then evaluating the outcome. So and then revising the original objective. This is the control mechanism. Okay, so that was my overview. Okay, so we know what controlling is and we know what decision making is. Now let's come to the levels of planning. So what are the levels of planning? If you can recall, we saw the levels of planning. We saw the top level management, lower level management and further lower level management, right? So the first thing which we had was strategic planning. Strategic is the core team or the most top level management. So strategic planning is also known as long term planning or corporate planning. So whenever we talk about corporate planning or long term planning, you know that we are referring to the topmost level of management. Moving on from that, we have the tactical level of planning. So tactical is always referring to the middle level of management, and after tactical we have the lowest form of management, which is my operational planning, which they basically talk about the day-to-day planning. Okay, so that's with my levels of planning, and then we also saw the cost, revenue and investment centers. So we saw what is responsibility accounting. Responsibility accounting is based on identifying individuals, so we are going to see who is responsible for a particular thing. That is what is known as responsibility accounting. And then we saw what is a cost center. A cost center is basically a production or a service location, function or activity. Okay, so we know what cost center is because we have also studied that in detail in the cost chapter. So we will discuss that once we revise the cost chapter. Revenue center is basically that part of the organization which earns the sales revenue. Profit center is again, investment center. So then we have what is the difference between financial accounting and the cost and management accounting. So cost accounting is also known as the management accounting, and you know that management accounting provides information to the internal management, whereas financial accounting basically produces reports and everything which is for the external stakeholders. Okay, so these are my differences. Okay. Alright, so now let's start with our questions. Okay, so the first question is which of the following statements are correct? Strategic information is mainly used by senior management in an operation. Productivity measurements are examples of tactical information. Operational information is required frequently by its main users. Okay, productivity is tactical information. So my answer is obviously D. Why is it D? Because all of the three definitions are correct, right? Reginald is the manager of production department M in a factory which has 10 other production departments. So he is the manager of the production department. He receives monthly information that compares planned and actual expenditure. So comparing a planned with actual is the controlling procedure. We have discussed that. After department M, all production goes into other factory departments to be completed prior to being dispatched to customers. Decisions involving purchasing asset items in Department M are not taken by Reginald. Which of the following describes Reginald's role in Department M? Again, Department and actual for Department M. After Department M, all production goes into the factory departments to be completed. Decisions involving purchasing asset items are not taken. So, what does Reginald actually do? Reginald is only responsible to the costs, right? Whatever costs are involved. If you read the question again, you can see that only the costs which are required in the particular department M, only that is taken care by Reginald. So my answer is obviously A, since he is the manager of only one cost center. Which of the following statements is not correct? Cost accounting can be used for inventory valuation to meet the requirements of internal reporting. Management accounting provides appropriate information for decision making. Routine information can be used for both short-term and long-run decision. Financial accounting information can be used for internal reporting purposes. So, what is my incorrect one in the following? So, obviously, my incorrect thing is A. Why is it A? Because cost accounting can be used for inventory valuation to meet the requirements of both internal as well as external, right? Cost accounting is something which can meet both of the criteria. In the question here, they have said that it is only required for internal reporting, whereas we have discussed in the chapter that cost accounting is going to be used for external as well when it comes to inventory valuation. The following statements relate to financial accounting or to cost and management accounting. And when I am talking about cost and management accounting, you need to know that it's one and the same thing. So, what statements are correct? Financial accounts are historical record, correct. Cost accounting is a part of financial accounting and establishes costs incurred by an organization. Think about it again. Is that correct or no? How is it correct? Cost accounting is not a part of financial accounting. We have been discussing that since the starting, that cost accounting is another thing and financial accounting is another thing. So the second is definitely not correct. Management accounting is used to aid planning, control and decision making. So 1 and 3 should be the answer, right? So my answer is B. Okay. Which of the following statement is correct? Qualitative data is generally non-numerical information. Information, okay. Information can only be extracted from external sources. Incorrect, incorrect. And even operational information gives detail for long-term plans only. Incorrect, because operational is for day-to-day business, right? We saw that it is the lowest level of management. Quantitative data is always accurate. There is nothing like that. So my answer is A. Only this gives me the correct definition. Other all are incorrect. The manager of a profit center is responsible for which of the following? So a profit center, he is responsible for what? Think about it for a second. A manager of a profit center is responsible of what? Revenues, costs, assets employed in the thing. So when we are talking about profit, what was the formula of profit? Revenue minus cost. Whatever revenue you have incurred, from that if you remove the cost, the difference is going to be the profit, right? So obviously the manager of a profit center would be responsible for the revenues as well as cost in that center. So my answer is 1 and 2 only, which is C. Which of the following would be the best described as a short-term tactical plan? So a short-term tactical plan, what is that? Tactical is my middle level management. Hope you remember that. Reviewing cost variances and investigate as appropriate. Comparing actual market share to budget. See, now this is done by the long term people, right? Cost variances and everything. Obviously, all that is done on a strategic level. Monitoring actual sales to budget. The thing is lowering a selling price. So when you are lowering a selling price, why do you do that? To increase the sales volume, right? So that is something which is a short term point, right? If you think about it, as compared to the other three things, lowering the selling price is something which you are doing for the near future, for some kind of benefit. So my answer is C. Which of the following relates to management accounts and which to financial accounts? Prepared yearly. On a yearly basis, you need to make the financial accounts. We know that. For internal use, we know that management accounting is done for the managers or for the internal use. Contains future information. We know that financial information is historical in nature and management accounting is looking forward or forward looking in nature. The following statements refer to strategic planning. It is concerned with quantifiable and qualitative matters. It is mainly undertaken by middle level management. It is concerned predominantly with the long term. It is concerned predominantly with the long term. Okay, so which is correct for strategic planning? So the first thing we know is that long term things are always coming under strategic planning. Now what else is correct? Middle management is tactical management. So this will obviously not be your answer, right? So the answer is 1 and 3, because strategic planning will use both quantitative as well as qualitative information, and at the same time it is predominantly in the long term only. So my answer is B. The following statements relate to responsibility centers. So we already discussed what a responsibility center is, wherein a particular center is, so it's a, like if I am the head of a department, then I have the responsibility of that department. So that is one responsibility center. Okay. Return on capital employed is a suitable measure of performance in both profit and investment centers. A return on capital employed is suitable for both profit and investment centers. That's true. How much return you get on the capital you have employed, that is very important from the perspective of a profit center as well as an investment center, definitely. Second thing is cost centers are found in manufacturing but not in service organization. Okay, so the thing is whenever we are using the cost centers, you don't get a cost center when you are talking about an industry which is dealing on services only. The manager of a revenue center is responsible for both sales and costs in a part of an organization. Obviously, revenue is again related to sales as well as costs. So, my answer is D, where all of them are correct. Indicate whether each of the following are ways that the management accountant helps in management of an organization. Okay, so control, yes. Planning, yes. Coordination, yes. Make decisions, yes. Motivation, yes. So all of these are important in management accounting. Question number 12. A paint manufacturer has a number of departments. Each department is located in a separate building on the same factory site. In the mixing department, the basic raw materials are mixed together in very large vessels. These are then moved on to the color adding department, where the paints of different colors are created in this vessel. In the next department, the pouring department, the paint is poured from these vessels into liter size tins. The tins then go on to the labeling department prior to going on to the finished goods department. Okay. The following statements relate to paint manufacturer. Mixing department is a cost center. A suitable okay, what are we supposed to do in this? Which statement is correct? Okay, the mixing department is a cost center. Obviously, you can measure cost using one department. A suitable cost unit for color adding department is a liter tin of paint. That's not true. Why is it not true? Because if you go and read the question again, rewind the video and read the question, the 1 liter of tin is a procedure that comes after the color has been added. So you can't measure that from before, right? Because that procedure is after adding color. So 2 is incorrect. And the pouring department is a profit center. Okay. So why is my pouring department not a profit center? Because it is a cost center, right? So the mixing department and the pouring departments are cost centers. The paint is not poured into the tins until after color adding department, right? So that would not be a cost center. But if you think about it, the pouring department is a cost center and a mixing department is a cost center, since you have one cost unit, right? But it's not a profit center, since profit center would be in the end itself. So my answer of question number 12 is A, which is 1 only. The following statement refers to qualities of good information. Which of the what was the quality of good information? If you can recall from the revision itself, we discussed the term accurate, and every letter has an abbreviation. So these are the statements which refer to the qualities of good information. Which of the above statements is correct? Okay, it should be communicated to the right. It should be communicated to the right person, definitely. It should always be completely accurate before it used. See, completely accurate. You can never ask for something to be 100% accurate. So this is incorrect. It should be understandable. Okay, so 1 and 3 is correct. So my question number 13 is correct. Which of the following descriptions only contain essential features of useful management information? Which of the following useful management information? Okay, so accurate, understandable, presented in a report format. Presented in a report format is not mentioned anywhere. Timely, reliable, and supported by calculation. Nobody has ever said that this is a specific way how it should be communicated. Regular, complete, communicated in writing. Again, it hasn't been mentioned anywhere that it should be communicated only in the writing format. Understandable, accurate, and relevant. So D is correct. Which of the following describes information? Data that consists facts and statistics before they have been processed. So that is data and that is not information. Data that consists of number, letter, okay, data is in, okay. D is my answer. I'm not going to discuss it further. Very simple, read it by yourself. Which of the following statement is correct? Data is held on computer in digital. Okay, sorry, just a second. Data is held on computer in digital format, whereas information is in a form that is readable. That's not true. Information is obtained by processing data. That is true. Data and information mean the same thing. Incorrect. Data consists of numerical or statistical. That is not necessary. So my answer is B only. Which of the following would be classified as data? Number of purchase requisition, analysis of wages into direct and indirect, table showing variances, graph showing number of layers that have worked. So my answer is A. Why is it A? Because everything else which we saw, graph, table, analysis, so these are something, this you get a graph or a table after you process a data. So data is just the raw material, right? Raw facts, right? So number of purchase requisition is not giving you any sort of information. That is just raw figures or raw facts. So my answer is A. Okay, so we are done with the chapter 1 questions. Now we will be starting with the sources of data chapters question. Before that, let me quickly again discuss sources of data with you. 231. I'm just opening the book and quickly having an overview of all the chapters, so it will become easy for you to understand. Alright. Let's quickly discuss sources of data. So you know there are various ways using which data can be collected, right? So we have two things. We have what is primary data and we have what is secondary data. Primary data is when data is collected first hand information and it is collected primarily from one first time information. Secondary data is when the data is collected from a secondary source, which means the information cannot be 100% first hand because it has already been processed and used for some other purpose. Now you are taking it to use it for some other purpose. So that also again shows that secondary data is so basically primary data is when you're collecting information for a specific purpose itself, whereas secondary data is using the information which is available from before itself and it has been used for some other purpose. Okay, and we had what was nominal data and ordinal data, right? So what is nominal data? Nominal data is like blood type, gender, eye color or something like that. Ordinal data is when we have an order or a scale to it. For example, happiness levels, Likert scale, age group, etc. So whenever we're talking about ordinal scale, order, you need to know that there is some sort of order in it or there is some sort of grouping in it. Whereas nominal data does not have any sort of grouping like that. For example, blood group, it can be anything, right? Name, it can be anything. So that is my nominal data. And then we have what is discrete data and continuous data. Very simple, discrete data and continuous data. Discrete data has gaps between it, continuous data has no gap between it, right? For example, discrete data is, it can be, let's say, just counted in nature. Now how do I explain what is discrete data? Discrete data can only take certain values. For example, the number of students taking a course. There is only one answer for it, right? In discrete data, there is just one answer. Whereas in continuous data, what you have is that there are groups and there are no gaps in it. Okay? So in discrete data, there can be only one answer. Whereas in continuous data, what happens is there have been groups and there are gaps between the groups. Okay. Next we have what is a descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. A descriptive analysis gives you an idea of the distribution of data and helps you detect anomalies. So descriptive analysis is basically, having an analysis in a very, very descriptive format. Inferential analysis is basically used to make inferences about some population. Okay. Then we have various sorts of data sources. I am not discussing that since we have already done it in detail. Okay. Now let's just straight away come to sampling techniques. Okay. And then we have what is the what are the ways in which you can collect data, and then we come to sampling techniques. So what are sampling? Sampling is a method wherein you use a certain sample of the population and you conduct your research on that population. So that sample, the sample population which you've taken for your study, the method which we use to do that is known as sampling method, and so there are various sampling techniques. Okay. So let us see the types of sampling methods. The first thing is a random sampling. So what is a random sampling? A random sampling is when you are just randomly picking anything, very simple. Next we have what is known as the systematic sampling. So what is systematic sampling? Systematic sampling is a technique for creating a random sample in which each piece of data is chosen at a fixed interval. For example, collecting every 10th, so nth term. So that is a systematic method of sampling. And then we have what is known as a stratified sampling. So what is stratified? Stratified sample is made up of different layers or different groups of population. So when you have different layers or different groups of population, that is known as stratified sampling. So the sample size for each layer is proportional to the size of the layer. So when we are talking about proportional layers or proportional groups of population, that is known as stratified sampling. Okay. And in which is proportional in nature, that is sampling, stratified sampling. And then we have multi-stage sampling. In multi-stage sampling, you further keep dividing and then choosing. In cluster, what is cluster sampling? Cluster sampling is very much similar to multi-stage sampling, but in cluster sampling, it is a less costly method, and you basically club items into clusters. Okay. The only difference between multi-stage and cluster sampling is that in cluster sampling, the end, when you are conducting the study, in the end result you use a group or a cluster on which you conduct the study. And then we have quota sampling, whereas in quota sampling you have a particular quota which you need to take under control. Okay. Okay, then we have what is big data. You know what is big data. And then we have 5 V's: volume, variety, velocity, value, and veracity. So we also saw what big data was and how we can use big data and what are the disadvantages which come when we use the big data. So that's it with my revision of sources of data. Let me just start with the questions. In case you are not if you're not able to understand anything in the revision, that's because you haven't done the chapter properly. So make sure to check the description box below and watch the chapter explanation video first, and then you can come and watch this video, as that will be more helpful. Okay, so we have to start from question number 18. Let's start. Which of the following describes secondary data? Data that does not provide any information, data collected for another purpose. We know that that is secondary data. Which of the following are primary sources of data and which are secondary sources of data? Data collected outside a polling station regarding voter choices. So that is the first time you are collecting information, so that would be primary. An internet search for the cheapest fuel available. Internet is always a secondary thing, right? We know that. Government statistics on the levels of unemployment. So if you can recall from the chapter explanation, you must have seen that all the government sources are secondary in nature. Data collected through observation on the number of cars flowing through a junction during a peak travel hours. So you are collecting data for a particular reason itself, so then this is primary in nature. When gathering information, you would use both internal sources of information and external sources of information. Which of the following are examples of external informations? Okay. Trade references, sales representatives' knowledge, credit agency report, and bank references. Okay. So in the particular thing, which are external information? The sales rep is belonging to the firm, so that will be internal source of information, right? Other than that, trade references, credit agency, and bank references. These three are going to be my external information, so my answer here is D. When gathering information on a potential client, you can use both internal sources of information and external sources of information. Which two of the following would be classified as internally generated information? Suppliers references. Okay, so supplier is first of all an external person, right? So keep that in mind. Credit reference agency report. Credit reference agency report, we will come to that. Sales information, ratio calculation. So which are internally generated information? So credit reference, so that is something which is done externally. Sales information will be given by our company sales office. Ratio calculations, the ratio calculations of our things will also be given by internal sources. So my answer here would be C and D. Which of the following is an example of external information that could be used in a management accounting system? Consumer price index, price list for the product sold by the business, internal. Production volume achieved by production department, internal. Discounts which we are giving to the customer would be internal again. So my answer is going to be A, because consumer price index statistics is going to be given by the Indian government, right, Indian agencies. So that would be external in nature. Which of the following are examples of sensor or machine data? So what are the examples of sensor or machine data? Give me a second. Location data from a mobile phone, first thing. Temperature data from thermometers in freezer. Information from social media. Okay, something which is done by a machine or which is done by a sensor is 1 and 2 itself. Very simple, obviously. Which one of the following is an example of internal information for the wages department of a large company? Okay, internal information. A code of practice issued by the Institute of Directors, that would be external information. A new national minimum wage, external information. Changes to tax codings issued by the tax authorities is external. Company employee schedule of hours work, this would be internal. So my answer is D. Okay, so we are done with sources of data as well. Now we'll be beginning with presenting information. So before starting this, let's quickly revise this chapter as well. Presenting information is chapter number 17 in your new book, I guess. Yeah, so it is chapter number 17, which is presenting information. Okay. So in presenting information, what we are going to see is, first we had a 4-step procedure for report writing, which is first preparing, and then we are planning, and then we finally write, and after writing we are going to review what we have written. So what is the structure of a report? We have the title, introduction, analysis, conclusion, and then we have the appendices. So after that we saw what are tables and what are the rules of tables, and a table comprises of rows and columns. After that we saw the different types of graphs and charts, wherein we saw bar charts, line charts, scatter graphs, and pie charts. So we saw what are bar charts. I think we all are familiar with how a bar chart looks like, and there are different types of bar charts. So to begin with, we had a component bar chart or a stacked bar chart. So what is a component bar chart or a stacked bar chart? In a component or a stacked bar chart, this is how the bar chart looks, and the bars have something like this. So this shows in a component bar chart, one particular bar itself is divided in various sort of components. So this is my component bar chart. Then we had percentage component bar chart. In percentage component bar chart, everything is given in percentage, and then we have compound or multiple bar charts. So what is a compound or a multiple bar chart? Let me just show that to you. So that is something like this, where we have A, B and C, A, B and C, A, B and C, like that. So this is compound bar chart and this is component bar chart. Hope that is clear. And this is also, compound bar chart is also known as stacked bar chart, and this is my component bar chart is also known as a stacked bar chart, and compound bar chart is also known as my multiple bar chart, since we have multiple bars for one particular thing. Okay. And in percentage bar chart, your y-axis is going to be in percentage instead of numbers. And then we have a line graph. We are clear with what a line graph is. Moving on, we have a scatter diagram. A scatter graph shows the relationship between the x and the y-axis. And then we have pie chart. In pie chart, everything is given in the degree of the pie or the angle of the pie. So that is it. Let's just start with the questions itself. So we have to start from question number 25. Okay. The following table shows that the typical salary of part qualified accountants in 5 different regions of England. Southeast, so this is the area and this is the typical salary. Which diagram would be the best to highlight the difference between area? Okay. Southeast, Midland, Northeast, Northwest, Southwest. So what do you think would be a best thing in this? See, so if we have more than 3 things, right? We have many things and we have just one salary. So in situations like this, we will be using a simple bar chart. This is for Southeast, this is for Midlands, this is for Northwest, this is for Northeast. So it's the most basic thing, so we can use a simple bar chart for the same. A line graph being produced to show the cost of advertising and sales revenue for a business. Which values would it show? A line graph is being produced to show the cost of advertising and sales revenue. So these are the two things which we will show. So in that case, what will happen? Revenue, sales revenue would be on the y-axis and the cost of advertising would be on the x-axis. Why? Because the sales revenue is dependent on the money spent on advertising. Right, the more advertising is done, the higher the sales revenue would be. So as and when my advertising is increasing, my sales is going to keep increasing, right? So if my x-axis is increasing, then my y will be increasing. So since y is dependent on, so sales revenue is dependent on cost of advertising. And if you remember your previous chapter or something which we've discussed in the cost chapter, you know that y is a dependent variable. So since sales revenue is dependent on cost of advertising, so sales revenue is the dependent variable which will be on the y-axis, whereas the cost of advertising would be on the x-axis. Okay. A pie chart is being produced to represent the sales from different regional offices of a business. North, Northwest, East, South, Southeast, total. What would be the angle of East division sections on the pie chart? To the nearest whole degree. Okay, so I have to, what would be the angle of the East division section? What do I have to do and how am I going to find out this? You know how to do it. We have a total over here. What is the formula of a pie chart? The number multiplied by the total divided by the total multiplied by 360 degrees, right? So this is what is going to give you your angle. So my East division is 241. So I have 241 divided by the total, which is 1384, multiplied by 360. So this is going to give me 62.69, which is, if you're talking about a whole number, it would be 63. Hope you are clear with this formula over here. The number divided by the total multiplied by 360 will give you the angle. The overhead cost of a business has been allocated and apportioned into the different cost centers. A pie chart has been used to present this information. The assembly department is represented by a section that has an angle of 45 degrees. The total overhead cost is 800. What is the value of the overhead that has been allocated and apportioned to assembly? Okay, so the assembly department is represented by this. The total overhead cost is this. Okay, so this is basically going to be my 45 degree, right? So I have a 45 degree with, I have 45 degree out of my 360 degree, right? 45 degree out of my 360 degree of the total will give me my value of the overhead. So that is going to be 1 lakh. How did I get this? So I got 45. See, we are supposed to find out the value of this, right? So 45 upon 360 multiplied by this will give you the value of the overhead which was belonging with this. I don't think there's any confusion. XYZ produces 3 main products, which would be the most appropriate chart or diagram for showing total revenue analyzed into product revenue month by month. total revenue analyzed into product revenue. So since we are talking about components over here, a bar chart is a good way of illustrating total sales month by month. The length of the bar each month is measured of total sales. The bar can be divided into three parts to show the amount of sales achieved in the three products. Since we have to talk about the product revenue, so in that case we can use a component bar chart. Okay, so the pie chart shows the sales volume of 4 different products. So these are the 4 different products. If the products are ranked from the largest sales volume to the lowest, how will it be? Obviously we can see that K is the largest, followed by Q is the largest, A is the largest, and W. So this is the order in which they are ranked. So my question number were 30, right? So the answer is obviously A. Which member of the sales team had the highest sales in February? In February, who had the highest sales? This is the second dark color. If you look at it, we can see that Sharon Nuet had the highest sales as compared to everybody. So my answer is naturally Sharon Nuet. Referring to the graph, which statements are true and false? Area 3 shows the best performance in quarter 3. Okay, where is quarter 3? This is my quarter 3, which is this area 3. So quarter 3 performance is here, but area 3 has quarter 3 performance this much, whereas if you see area 1, the quarter 3 performance is this one. So this is true or false? Think about it again. Let's see this again. It is, the colors are confusing me so much. Okay, so the lightest color is quarter 1, this is quarter 2, this is quarter 3, and this is quarter 4. These are the different colors which are given over here. So area 3 shows the best performance in quarter 3. Okay, so out of all, what do you think is the best performance in area 3? Which one is showing the best performance? Area 3 shows the best performance in quarter 3. Okay, so this is from here, right? 600 to 1200, 6, 2, 3, 4. From here to here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's not true according to me, even though in the book it is saying true, but according to our logic, it's area. Okay, so according to us, the quarter 4 is better than quarter 3, right? So let me just mark that. Area 2 sales are consistent quarter on quarter. Area 2 sales are consistent. Is that true or false? It is false. Why? Because here this much, here again there is low. So it's different. It is not consistent at all. Quarter 4 has the largest volume of sales across all areas. Quarter 4, quarter 4, quarter 4. Is that true? Yeah. In all of them, the largest sales have been taken place on quarter 4 only. Area 1 shows the best performance in quarter 2. If you look at area 1, what is the best performance? 8. Okay, it is true. Hope you understood how we did this. Just learn how to read this graph, then you will be clear with it. A farmer has land extending to 100 acres which comprises of 43% wheat, 20% barley, 16% grass, oats and fallow. If these figures were drawn in a pie chart, calculate the angle of the to the nearest whole number. So how are you going to calculate? Percentage divided by the total multiplied by 360 is going to give you your angle. I think you can do it by yourself. For example, we have total 100 acres. So for wheat, 43 upon 100 multiplied by 360. For barley, 20 upon 100 multiplied by 360. For grass, 16 upon 100 multiplied by 360. By doing that, you will get your angle. So I think I'll end this video over here since we've already done 33 questions. I know I said that we will be doing cost classification in this video, but I don't think it's possible since it's already a very lengthy video. In the next video, I will be doing the cost classification. So check the description box below in case you would like to watch the chapter explanation of any of the chapters, and also if you would like to solve the Kaplan exam kit of other chapters, then you can check that also below. Thank you.